In the ruthless winters of the 13th century, when northern winds whipped the earth like sharpened blades, survival hinged on one thing: not the sword, not the harvest, but fire. Ancient accounts remind us that a single night without fire could mean the end for an entire family. Winter showed mercy to no one. The cold slipped through woolen cloaks, crawled deep into bones, turned breath into pale smoke, and fingers into stone. Today, we travel back through the corridors of time to witness how medieval people clung to life through a small, unassuming object that carried the hope of an era. The winter fire starter. Picture a morning 800 years ago. The sun has not yet risen. Snow lies thick along the doorway. A man steps out of his wooden hut, his cloak heavy with frozen dew, his hands trembling in the cutting cold. He must make fire, not merely to cook or to warm himself, but to keep his family alive. Inside his coat, he carries a treasured kit that families guarded like heirlooms. Inside it lies a curved piece of forged steel, several hand-selected flint stones, and a small leather pouch of tinder, what his ancestors called the heart of fire. In the medieval world, flint was no ordinary rock. It was a mineral with razor-sharp edges that, when struck against steel, sent bright sparks scattering like falling stars. To find good flint, people climbed icy hills, cracked open frozen boulders, and searched for the glossy, glass-like core. Every piece was kept with reverence, as if it held the soul of fire itself. The forged steel was equally important. Heated to a glowing red, quenched repeatedly, shaped, hammered, and tempered, the steel had to be both strong and resilient, alive enough to release sparks when struck. Village blacksmiths would say, "Steel for the blade must cut, steel for the fire must breathe." But the most precious part of the kit lay within the small leather pouch, the tinder. In medieval Europe, they used a special woodland fungus. They dried it for weeks, soaked it with ash and salt, then pounded it until it softened into a felt-like sheet. When a spark touched its surface, it glowed, not fiercely, not instantly, but steadily, forming the fragile seed of a future fire. And so begins the man's ritual on this winter morning. He kneels beside a large stone, sheltering himself from the wind. He places a piece of the treated fungus atop a pile of brittle leaves hardened by frost. His hands tremble not from fear, but from the cold that numbs thought itself. With practiced movements, he raises the steel and brings it down across the flint. The first strike yields nothing. The second echoes with a hollow click. The third produces a spark, brief, bright, gone in an instant. But he remains patient. In this age, no one rushes fire. At last, a spark lands perfectly on the fungus. A red ember the size of a sesame seed appears. It does not blaze, it merely glows, like a tiny heartbeat struggling to stay alive. The man cups his hands to shield it from the wind and leans close, breathing gently. The ember expands. A faint thread of smoke rises against the white snow. He knows he has succeeded. This is the moment millions before him experienced. Not the moment fire appeared, but the moment hope returned. And this hope was fragile. In the next chapter of our journey, we will explore what happened after this ember was born, how medieval people nurtured it, how they coaxed it into flame amid brutal winters, how they carried fire through the night, and why fire was not merely heat, but culture, identity, and the beating heart of a medieval home. The medieval man has created an ember, but his battle for survival is far from over. An ember lives only seconds without care. In winter, wind can kill fire, snow can kill fire, and often human impatience can kill fire more quickly than either. He gently lifts the glowing ember and places it inside a nest of dry grass. Not fresh grass. This was harvested before winter, dried in the warm attic above the hearth, and protected from moisture for weeks. Medieval families called it the cradle of fire, the nest where the first flame was raised. He gathers the grass around the ember, lifts the nest to his face, and turns his back against the wind. Then he blows. Not forcefully, not recklessly, just enough to let the ember breathe. More smoke rises. The glow spreads. Then a sudden flare. He squints at the sudden brightness. A trembling flame, hardly larger than a candle, has been born. He places it beneath thin splinters of wood, splinters he prepared the night before by splitting larger logs to reach the dry core hidden within. This was a rule taught across generations. Wet wood is not dead wood. Beneath the frozen exterior, there is always a heart of dryness waiting to ignite. As the small sticks catch fire, he adds larger pieces. No medieval adult made the mistake of throwing large logs onto a young flame. That error belonged to children and to those who never learned the rhythm of winter. Within minutes, a real fire emerges. The flame melts the snow around him. Steam lifts from his cloak. Color returns to his numb hands. And most importantly, peace returns to his heart. But survival does not end with starting fire. Throughout history, people viewed keeping fire alive as more important than creating it. When night fell, temperatures plunged, winds turned wild, wooden homes groaned beneath storms of snow. In these hours, an unattended fire could vanish without warning. So how did people ensure their flames survived until morning? They used ash. Near the end of the night, when the flame burned low, they did not extinguish it. Instead, they covered the glowing embers with a thick blanket of ash. Ash does not kill heat, it protects it, slowing its release and keeping the embers alive for hours. At sunrise, one was only needed to brush the ash aside, and the heart of fire still glowed beneath. In some regions, people used stones. They heated large stones in the hearth and pushed them near the embers before covering everything together. The stones held warmth through the night, acting like silent guardians. Other households kept a clay jar, blackened by years of smoke, their fire pot. They placed glowing embers inside, sealed the jar, and set it in a corner. The jar preserved warmth until dawn. These pots were often passed down through generations, as if one could inherit not only fire, but life itself. Fire in the medieval world was much more than survival. It was identity. It was the center of the home, the place where families gathered, the symbol of protection against the darkness of winter. In many cultures, they believed that if the fire went out, misfortune would enter the home. Children were taught not simply to use fire, but to respect it, for fire was the silent witness to every season of their lives. This is the great lesson we found in parchment making. Patience creates quality. This is the same patience required to organize the collagen matrix in parchment. It is a lesson in permanence. The lighter is convenient, but this tool teaches you self-reliance. And self-reliance is the key to survival in any age. As the flame rises in the wooden house, the wind outside still howls like a restless beast. Yet inside, warmth softens the cold air. Children stretch their small hands toward the hearth. Parents ladle hot soup into wooden bowls. Stories of long-ago winters are whispered again. This is how humanity survived countless winters, through patience, through wisdom, and through a humble tool capable of creating flame from 2 stones and a piece of steel. Today, when we look back at these ancient fire-starting kits, they are more than artifacts. They are reminders of human endurance, ingenuity, and the quiet courage of those who came before us. If you enjoy uncovering ancient secrets forgotten by modern convenience, subscribe to Frost and Fire Lore.